Lively Gaming here, and today we're playing Dragonheir, Silent Gods. For today's video, we're going to talk about the combat system. There's lots to explore regarding positioning, what do all those lines mean, and well, let's get into it. So, I was actually going to make this video separate on my account anyway, but luckily, like a couple others I've done so far, they do have this lovely little guide that they already wrote up on their Discord. So I figured instead of just saying my own opinion, why don't we go through the official details of what the game developers actually suggest. And of course, I will give my comments along the way, and any advice extra on top of it along the way. So I'm going to read through this, show the pictures, talk about everything, and hopefully this can help you guys understand the combat system. Maybe there's a couple little tips and tricks that you didn't realize. There's lots to pay attention to with the boss skills too. So depending on what they talk about here, I might have some extra points at the end, but let's get into it. Let's see what Dragonheir official has to say. So the combat system is an important part of Dragonheir Silent Gods. You can mobilize your heroes on chessboards of various shapes and sizes to fight monsters or other players in intense real-time battle. The various strategies and tactics derived from such gameplay often bring a more fun and exciting experience to our players. This article will walk you through the combat system of this game. Alright, combat settings. Number 1. In the battles in Dragonheir, the battles in Dragonheir often take place on a 5x8 rectangular board. Usually, allies start from the left side, while enemies start from the right side. Simple enough, right? Double-sided, you can position anywhere on this board, right? Simple. Okay. Of course, this is the basic mode of this battle board. Along your adventure, you'll discover many more board variants, such as a board where you're surrounded by monsters, so you have to fight enemies coming at you from all directions. Also, while you're exploring the world, you might run into skirmishes of Hold the Line. In this case, your only objective is to eliminate multiple waves of enemies and stop them from reaching their destination. So that's the tower defense. That's this picture here. They actually have that little tower defense aspect added to the game, where there's going to be waves of enemies, and you're only allowed to let so many escape or the battle fails. Luckily, as long as you do it within not letting the X amount escape, it does count as success, and it's alright. You don't have to like get it perfect every time, because I think once they consider you beat it, you can't do it again. The little tower goes away. One quick little tip regarding these tower defenses, as you'll often find that they are too hard to do by the time you first reach them in the story. Unless you coincidentally have a really strong ranged unit attacking type team, you're probably going to find they're quite difficult. So, not always, but depending on how much you've progressed that day and whether you're fighting it early on, later on, after you farmed gear, or before you farmed gear, or whatever it might be, usually I find I couldn't do them all the first try. So I actually use the map, little markers. You click on the map and you can add a little icon to mark where the towers are, so you remember to go back to them later. And then once you've done it, you can remove the marker on the map and go back. And yeah, or not go back. Once you've done it, you can just remove the marker and you'll know it's no longer a concern. All right, so additionally, some in-game stages require you to go through multiple battles without stopping. This is when the durability of your members matter the most. Multiple battles without stopping. I don't know about this. I'm trying to picture this. I mean, I can't think of anything where our enemies stay there and then we keep having enemies coming at us. So that might be one of the new game modes that shows with Feywild. There was something interesting there that I hadn't heard of yet. Or unless I'm just completely misreading what they mean. But I think they mean like you stay in one place and the waves keep coming at you, but you don't necessarily heal, right? Or you're not resetting the battle to start fresh. Unless you have the right people on your team and you're healing and doing all the things and you feel fresh every time. You know what I mean. Alright, now this is the important part. Before a battle begins, you must make sure you're well prepared. First of all, you'll select 5 heroes, deploy them adjust their positioning. When dragging a hero, you'll see an aggro line between your selected hero and the enemy. This enemy represents the prioritized target unit once the battle begins. So the friendly hero's target's connected by yellow, while the enemies are connected by red. If two units are targeting each other, the line is purple. All right, so let's go ahead and reiterate that. So we have Voresh as a ranged unit. So he has this yellow line going between him and this other enemy because he is attacking the enemy, but the enemy is not attacking him, for example. But you can see when you're on Voresh who is going to be taking the damage from each of these enemies. To make sure it's not the one character, if you're looking for something like that that's a ranged unit, you don't want them to be the one taking the damage, or a healer, or whatever it might be. Yeah, you can kind of see it that way. And then purple okay, now we're on Furboth, who is the tank. So of course, he as the tank is going to be attacking someone else on the front line, while others are also attacking him. So while you're on Furboth here, you can see that purple aggro line is going between the two targets, meaning they're attacking each other. So like Furboth is going to take hits from the second guy with the red line, but he's not going to be attacking the second guy with the red line, at least not at first, not till he deals with this guy. So that's just something to look at. Now, if you're selected on other heroes, you'd see the same thing. Like the other guy up there, we kind of, the Radiant guy, I can't tell who that is, or girl, because the angle. But the Radiant unit up there, it looks like he's just being attacked, but that's just because if you're not clicked on them, you can't see the yellow line or the purple line. You're always looking for that yellow line or purple line to see how you're going to engage, but the red is always just going to show who the enemy is attacking. All right. Also, don't forget to heal friendly heroes that are low at HP. Tap the plus sign above the hero who is missing some HP to heal them. You could also select, you can use medicine from the right side of the battle preparation stage. Not only that, you can use buffing food to grant associated attribute bonus to your entire team. So this is one thing here that you're not really going to need for the most part. Very early on, the first few battles, you can plus your people up to get them back at full health. But you're hardly going to need this if you're smart and have a healer or two. Almost always two healers of some sort. Like one main healer plus a tank that also heals, or a support that also throws a couple passive heals, something. You shouldn't really need this healing thing, but do keep an eye on it. If there's only this tiny bit of health low, like you can barely even see in this picture, on these two characters like Voresh here, don't waste the little potion. As long as you have another healer in your team, you're gonna be fine. You don't, just because the plus sign is there doesn't mean you have to use it at the beginning of every battle. It's a little bit of a misleading thing. It makes you feel like you have to when you really should, but you can just tap that plus sign to quickly use the low potions. But if you want to use the bigger potions, or the bigger elixirs there, that's different. But there's also buffs related to consumables that you can use, and that's really important. The cooking stuff comes in handy. It's a huge deal. The cooking makes a really big difference, and I definitely suggest if you're struggling, you feel like you want to try some more damage, take an attack one in, or if you feel like your survivability is your problem, add a defense or HP consumable before doing that battle again to see if it helps you push through where you're stuck. Consumables are huge, as it says. All right, so let's see, if several of the deployed heroes have a captain skill, the player must access the aura details page and select the right one of them to be active. So one thing I've noticed here is it's not very smart. So for example, I have multiple people that have attack in all battles, and I have some that have 24% and some that have 30%. And it doesn't automatically default to 30%. You'd think, okay, it's on the attack. Yeah, it must be on the big one. Wrong. I think it has to do with placements. Like whichever unit you place first, it's going to enable that aura. Then if you place another unit that has an aura, it doesn't change it. It just sticks on that first unit that has the aura. I'm pretty sure, I haven't tested that to find out exactly, but either way, it doesn't really matter which one it chooses first. It just chooses someone, and it's not necessarily the best aura for your battle. So if you see the little icon here, you're going to see the different aura battle. Always click it, double check. I mean, you're going to learn what your people do, of course, eventually. But always check that and make sure the most logical thing for the battle is actually selected. Because sometimes, sometimes you're going to accidentally go in with the low version of your attack in all battles if you have multiple in your team. Definitely something to keep out and a really good pointer for this video. Alrighty. So, know yourself and know the enemy. You can fight 100 battles with no danger of defeat. Before a battle begins, make sure you check out the enemy's information. This can help you arrange your formation accordingly to significantly increase your odds. Words are hard for me today. Such information can easily be accessed by tapping the info button in the upper right. So this is huge, honestly. So there's always this little info tab, like this pages of notes on the enemy. And sometimes when you click it, it just shows the very basics. But then there's like a more details button that expands. And when it expands, it sometimes shows you extra tips. Like with this, talking about the enemy has 150 resistance, you're going to need 170 accuracy to counter that resistance. And some of these battles even actually show you what the suggested debuffs that you should bring in, or buffs, or skill in general. Like, there's actually some really wonderful suggestions now to help people form the best team. So if you're confused and you're struggling and you're not sure which characters to use, and you haven't been clicking this button, that's a really big thing you could be missing out on, to learn what each battle actually needs. And if it says certain debuffs or buffs, it's going to be huge, you know? It really, really makes a difference. And some bosses are going to like have shields. Others are going to put out debuffs, so having a cleanser is good. Just kind of predicting what your team should be before you go in, instead of finding out after once you've already wasted time and lost. You might as well know what to bring in right away. Plus, you can kind of get a feel for the battles. You're like, oh my gosh, almost all these say I should probably have decreased attack, or attack penalty, sorry. Maybe I should actually make sure I have an attack penalty hero for all my teams, which is a very important debuff, by the way. But alright. So, this is a real-time combat style. Once a battle has begun, you can control the game mainly by choosing when to use your hero's ultimate skills on which targets. During the entire battle, the ultimate energy of both allies and enemies will be visible below their HP bars. In the bottom right, you can also see how friendly heroes have been recharging. In non-PvP battle, the enemies will also use their ultimate skills immediately after they finish recharging. As for ultimate skills of friendly heroes, you can manually use them. Choosing your targets based on the current situation will often help you get the advantage. Yeah, this is really important. So obviously down here, you can choose to manually your ultimates. You can double click on them and they just use their ultimate randomly. Or if you click and drag, you can actually choose which target to use the ultimate on. And in some cases, this is necessary if you're struggling or you're just trying to clear something for sake of a mission. Like, I guess we could give this, like the fire, or this one. This is a good example. You see, they got burns all over them. So maybe you have, if you had an Enna in here to dispel one debuff from all allies, you'd want to do that. You want to cleanse the debuff from all allies, like before they're about to do their ultimate. Like the fire domain is one of the hardest ones because that boss just smacks. When they put burns on you, like in this picture, it actually has like a burn explosion on its final skill. So if you don't cleanse or prevent the burns, dispel debuffs, then you're just gonna get wiped unless you have crazy protection or you're just OP and you can blast through that particular stage. But that's what's gonna be the real roadblock, is having a proper utility for each fight. And something like a cleanse might be something you really need to time perfectly. So sometimes manualing or semi-manualing can be the answer. Alrighty. In some easier battles or regular dungeons that require multiple runs, you can enable auto spellcasting mode for friendly heroes to automatically use their ultimate skills on the right once they finish recharging. You could also enable 2x speed to increase dungeon run efficiency. So I'm sure you guys already noticed, but there's the auto button on the side and the 2x speed as well. So with that in mind, of course, if you click the circles with the ultimates, that's what turns their ultimate on manual or automatic. But keep in mind when you go into a new battle for the first time, the auto is never turned on. You always have to turn it on yourself. So you could go through and start doing the battle and wonder why you're dying. It's because your auto, not your ultimate. Your auto was never turned on. Definitely make sure you're ready to do that at the beginning of new battles. For new dungeons or whatever, I mean. Alright, other than your hero's ultimate skills, you can also manually use your control skills by tapping the skill button on the right. Control skills are powerful, but you must defeat lots of monsters if you want to fully recharge them, so make sure you save them for when it's absolutely necessary. So this is that mastery skill that comes in with your adventurer, the traveler. Like this says, deals damage to all enemies and grants a 20% target max HP shield to all allies for 10 seconds. So this is just a little bonus that regenerates when you kill enemies, but you can only use this manually. If you're just doing full auto battles, it's never going to use it, so keep that in mind as well. But it could be the difference between saving you to finish off a battle or protect you from dying. Alright, special monsters, terrains, and items. On the continent of Adenthia, adventurers will often find themselves fighting in unexpected environments. Perhaps, just as you're about to open a chest, you'll get jumped by a mimic. So this, like, some of these chests look like chests, but then they turn into a battle. That's something you're going to encounter. If the battle board has spring water on it, heroes near the spring water will get to enjoy additional bonuses. Use this to your advantage to make battles easier. Also, while you're exploring the world, you may run into special helpers who can aid you in combat. So there's going to be a lot of things like that where you're going to see weird things on the map that you're like, what does that even mean? Usually you can just click, long press on it and see what it does. Or you can hit the info button, and the info button with the top, the 2 pages like they showed, that's going to tell you all the details for the battle, including what the buffers or debuffers or whatever little extra things do. So that's kind of like this. This is the special helper example. Like sometimes you'll get these flags that says units within the flag gain extra attack speed bonus and crit rate bonus. Or sometimes they're an elemental bonus. Or sometimes they're things that actually help the enemy. You'll notice that anyone around this flag, which can be which some of them can be the enemies too, like gain healing. So you'd want to make sure. There's one really annoying board. I can't remember exactly what area it was at, but I feel like it's around the area you get like the 3rd cart or the 3rd forge hammer, or no, it's cart level 5. It's a little later, not too crazy, but I remember struggling with having a very poison heavy DPS team and then having to click or having to draw them away. Because all my people were damaged, all my damage dealers were poisoned, so I only could use my Ice Adventurer at the time to do the damage instead. So I would have to make sure that I had a tank up at the top corner to make sure that they were drawing their attention to the tank so they didn't wander down near the flag that could actually heal them as well, or else it was just impossible to kill them. Like, you have to really get strategic with some of these special things that show up on the field, because sometimes they also boost the enemy. So let's see, usually there are various obstacles and traps in battles, including barrels that explode when they're hit, and other terrain items that add a lot more possibilities to the game, but using them will help you greatly. Also, when there's a roper among the enemies, it'll extend its tentacles forward at the start of combat and drag the first target it reaches in, dealing extremely high damage. You must arrange your formation to dodge this threat. So yeah, it's pretty obvious. If there's a roper, just don't put anybody in that line of combat. And if they are someone who is a melee unit, don't put them too far back because they could run into the range of combat. I've done that where I put like one right next to it, but further back, and then they, like, instead of running straight forward, they like ran into the wave of it. I don't know if that always happens, but it depends on the thing they're trying to target. So be really aware of that. So like here in this picture, we got a dynamite barrel that explodes once it's attacked. And then the whole tree vine thing, the roper grabs the enemy like it says. Does a lot of damage and stuns them. So in other cases, as mentioned above, there's many more monsters and special mechanics that are tricky and treacherous to deal with. For example, an imitator will shapeshift into your friendly units. That's the closest to it at the start of combat, which is why you must adjust the formation and positioning accordingly to minimize the strength of that imitator. Oh gosh. So the imitator here is going to copy whoever it's closest to. And if you put your best DPS unit close to an imitator, that might be a problem. So you really have to plan those battles accordingly. That's really smart. But all right, that's all. Yeah, that's all for today's little guide here. And I guess that's all for today's video. I really wanted to go through this. I thought I did a pretty good job of explaining stuff. Actually, before I end this video, we should talk a little bit more about the actual positioning, because there's definitely some things they left out, and there's some things I want to point at you guys in the battles. So number one, I feel like most of it's pretty obvious. Like you're going to put your tanks on the front line, and then your other damage dealers behind them. Don't put another melee unit on the front line that's not a tank. Just put the one tank on the front line and everything else behind them. Also, be very aware of your patterns for your battle skills and your ultimates. If someone heals in an octagon shape, a diamond shape, or whatever, like you want to keep them in that diamond shape for your formation the best you can, so they actually can cover all the enemies for the heal. Where someone like Voresh, doesn't matter, he does damage for the whole board, blah, blah, blah. I guess that doesn't matter for your allies. I guess a better example would be some of the healers or support units. Some of them can heal the whole board, so where their position doesn't matter as much. But someone like Hexandra has like the little diamond shape, so you don't want to go spreading people out and then she can't heal anybody. The exception might be in some battles, they'll have the the boss will do damage in also the same shape, which is something you could see. You know, you'll see if you click on their skills, that octagonal shape. Or, sorry, I want to say octagon. What's not an octagon? It's more like a diamond. Or, yeah, it's like a sideways square. It's more like a diamond. So, if the enemy does that and all your units are bunched together, they might get nuked all at once. But if you spread them out, then only a couple of them are going to take those hits and the others will be fine. And then you have to make up for the random healing and stuff elsewhere. But that might be more worth it to push through in a certain battle where the ultimates are very sent or focused from an enemy. So if an enemy has a focused area, you might not want to group your characters together the way you normally would. Or there's some tricky stuff, like once you actually start doing those green dragon battles, like the one side of the tail will do decreased attack, and one side might do decreased or defense penalty, and one does attack penalty, sorry. So you don't want to have your damage dealers on the side of the decreased attack so that they are, you know, doing less damage. Or if Furboth is a defense... Actually, he's okay. He'll dispel some debuffs, that helps. But for the most part, like, you don't want to have your defensive tank get hit with a decreased defense debuff, and then all of a sudden he's not doing as much healing if it's a tank that heals with defense like Furboth. There's just lots to think about when it comes to positioning and how the enemy uses their skill, and also how you use your skills. So always pay attention to the little maps that pop up when you click a skill, and see what the battle, skill, and ultimate, how their layouts are, and that can make a really big difference. But hope this video was helpful. It's good to talk through all this stuff. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.